Okay, hi everyone. If we haven't met, my name is Madeline Buell, and I am the National River Cleanup Manager at American Rivers. And I've been in this position for, I don't know, probably since like 2018, might be 5 or 6 years by now. It's been a long time. So this topic, thank you for joining this cleanup organizer call. This topic is going to be on tire removal. Obviously, this is an ongoing topic and difficulty for many of us, and some of us are in very unique situations. And so this is a great opportunity to kind of talk about those issues, what we're up against, and what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. And I really would love if each of you could share your experience with tires and how you have navigated it, the situation with removal or and whatnot. So, and I do apologize. I just opened up our waste disposal guide on our cleanup organizers page. We have a number of resources on there, and I just saw that we were still talking about Bridgestone. I'm so sorry. If you haven't heard, Bridgestone, they used to offer a dumpster, and they would collect like if you had 20 or more tires, they would send out a dumpster to you and then remove it. They've sunsetted that program. So we are going to remove that from our resources. And if you know of any other, I haven't heard of anything yet. I think Budget Dumpster does do dumpster, like free dumpsters, but I'm not sure if they'll take tires. And I think it depends on your region too, and area. So let me know if you have any tips and stuff that we can add to that resource or share with the group. So I'm gonna pass it over to you guys. Who wants to go first and kind of talk about their tire removal experience? And you can just go ahead and start talking.
Yeah. I mean, I can just say, hi, I'm Stacy. I'm from the Connecticut River Conservancy, based in Greenfield, Massachusetts. And we were an avid user of the Bridgestone Tires Forward program, and it was a huge loss for us not to have that this year. And I've been struggling to try to find other resources for it. I mean, when there's small amounts of tires, it doesn't seem that big of a lift to ask, the local DPWs and towns. But when we have many reportings of big dump areas that need to be removed, and then, it's so costly. And I even this year tried to connect one of our prospective, like a very strong business partner who's like they've been helping us remove tires from one site, like physically removing, doing that work, the hard work with us. And we approached them to help sponsor financially and do the heavy lifting. And they were trying to connect with a tire recycler out in Eastern Mass, and nothing ever came of it. I had like 1,000 emails and phone calls, and then they just stopped connecting with me. So I'm more on the side of really wanting to listen and hear what other people have come up with, and hope to find, something doable, affordable.
Nick and Kay, I saw you guys just joined. We are sharing our experiences with tire removal, what issues you are experiencing or have experienced in the past, and what things you've done to remedy those, whether they worked or not. And thank you, Stacy, for sharing.
Sure.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My name is Katie. I am the volunteer and community science manager with the Catawba Riverkeeper. So among other things, I am all things cleanup. We have experienced, not that this is like new, but we have been experiencing a lot more issues with tires this year, or finding the areas and tackling them, maybe is the right way to put it. We have been working on different ways to remove the tires from the creeks or lake beds, whichever one it may be. Lakes are definitely seeming to be easier so far than creeks and rivers. And we've had varied success with some of it, but disposal has definitely been an issue. We have thus far gone through our county trash pickup services. We have quite a few areas that were a part of an Adopt a Stream program within our area. And so they work with us to try and help remove a lot of that trash. So I know sometimes programs like that take priority. So it's our normal, like we'd call 311 and schedule a pickup with the county, but we get special priority and sort of special circumstances for the type of trash that they come to get because it's part of that Adopt a Stream program. So I don't know like if that's in other areas, but the reliability of when they come get it has been an issue, but it is free. And we just have to, follow the rules, put it in a place that's easily accessible, all that good stuff. So that has been mildly successful, even for some of our like larger dumps. But some of these areas we're finding just the issue of getting back to wherever the tires are and getting them out to areas where even if we were able to afford, a dumpster, it could be a mile or two from the location where they can actually set it down. And so we are experiencing similar struggles, which is, I'm also here to listen for that bit. As far as tire disposal, so right now we're kind of been focusing on the methods of getting them out without just brutalizing volunteers. So
Katie, I have a question. Is it, are you seeing this as like a more historical tire dumping spots where they're coming off the road and they just keep piling up over decades? Or are you seeing this as illegal dumping? Or is this kind of it's just maintaining it every single year, you're seeing the same amount and it's always new?
that's a great question. So one of the reasons this year, why we're becoming aware of so many more than we were in the past, is because within our region of the Catawba Watery River Basin, and so that's from Lake James, like roughly Morganton, North Carolina area, all the way down to South Carolina, like close-ish to Columbia. So we follow the whole Catawba Watery River. Are between a couple of the lakes having scheduled maintenance on their dams. So they're specifically lowering lake levels for that purpose to work on them. And then as far as like the last month and a half, we've been kind of in a drought. And so that's also been lowering our lake and our stream and river levels. And so it's just been uncovering a lot. And so what we're finding so far this year is a lot of the stuff from lakes are legacy trash. So it's like catfish traps or and if you don't know what that is, it's when they take a tire, remove the rim, cut a hole in it, and then drop it down into the lake, and usually have some sort of like marker or buoy or something. And then the fish they get in, they can't get out for some reason, and it's literally fishing from a barrel. But between that and then back in the day, when people didn't really know, they were told like tires are perfectly fine fish habitat, and we didn't really know the issues that came with that. So in the lakes, it's a lot of fish habitat or like catfish traps, and those are from like decades and decades ago that we're seeing, because they are completely like decomposed or degrading in the waters. From our rivers and our creeks, we're finding that it's a bigger variety of factors. In some areas, it's like Sugar Creek, for instance, is one of ours that there are some areas that are a bit easy to dump and like much farther upstream than the sections we're even cleaning. But because those rivers are prone to flash flooding, they're dump sites that maybe at that moment when they dumped it was just in the woods and whoever did it didn't think anything of it. Once that creek or river flash floods, it just starts bringing everything downstream. And so it's just a littering of hundreds and hundreds of tires that just pile up after a while. And a lot of these sections of creeks are not easy to access. Like one access point to another could be 8 to 16 miles, in between. And so it takes people like us that are going to get on there and go through the whole section and pull those out. So there is that, but we also see issues like we did a cleanup 2 weeks ago and we were pulling out dozens of white wall tires. And that was like from an instance where whether it was a massive dump site or whether it was an area that got flooded when, decades ago when they put in a dam and they didn't really think about it. But, a lot of these unused dams that are just causing problems are getting removed. And so once you do that, you see, again, all of that stuff washes downstream. So it's kind of dependent. We're finding sites where it's clearly been a wash because there's no real way to get to it. And then we're finding sites where it's like, oh, look, there's a hill and an embankment, and it's somebody could have been changing a tire and then just been like, meh, don't want to pay to get rid of it. And they just let it roll downhill and they don't think about where it goes after that. So unfortunately, it's a little bit of both. I do like it when I see a lot of older tires. It makes me feel like, okay, maybe we're getting better. But yeah, it is. So it is a bit of both, and especially depending on what location we're in.
That's really helpful. I don't think us as a group has really touched on tires and the previous usage of using them as for catching fish. And I honestly completely forgot. I haven't thought about that since I lived in Tennessee, which we did talk about that. I don't know. Is this a thing in the Southeast, or has anyone else heard about this problem or experienced it?
I didn't know about it either in terms of fishing,
Interesting.
but I'm not a fisher person, so
Yeah.
that's another factor.
I'll have to ask my partner. He'll probably know all about it, and I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whole other area for us to discuss in detail. I'm very
Right.
with that.
Yeah, I know it's definitely more prevalent in the Southeast, but I don't know, if it's a thing in other places. We actually hadn't thought about that ourselves, and Lake Watery is one of our lakes that has been doing work on a dam, and so they lowered their lake levels and had it lowered for nearly a year now, and exposed thousands and thousands of tires. And it was one of those things where we saw it. Somebody posted on a Lake Watery Facebook group. Our watershed manager saw it. She passed it along to me, and we were like, good Lord, like, let's do something about this. Yeah. And then we started to get a very interesting reaction from the community where half the people were very much like, yay, get rid of it. It's an eyesore. It's bad for the water. And then the other half were, I'll be generous and give it like 10% where, hey, wait, those are fish habitats. In which case we were like, not anymore. This is what we've learned. And it's like, then you go into the education game. But the rest of them were like, you're taking away my fishing. And I'm like, nope, fishing happens with a pole. Like something that's not a tire. There are other ways now, but so that was an interesting thing that we then had to start researching and figure out, oh, okay, so this was a whole kind of, I guess, sort of culture within certain areas in particular, that this is a big thing that they did for generations.
Interesting. I will definitely talk to our dam removal team. Again, if you guys are ever interested in dam removal, American Rivers is pretty well known for it. And I think we do trainings, and there's been films about it. So if you want to learn how to remove a dam in your area, I think I can connect you with our team, and they are the utmost experts in that. But I will talk to them about that with their experience of lowering dams, and if they're seeing the tire thing anywhere else from their experience. Great. Anyone else would like to share their experience with tire removal, issues, remedies, anything like that?
Hey, yeah, I'll turn my camera on. Hi, I'm Kay. I'm the Environmental Justice Director for Friends of the White River in Indianapolis. And I just started my role earlier this year, so just kind of getting into it. And we've been doing some cleanups with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. But we recently got onto Fall Creek, which is one of our tributaries, and did a 5-mile canoe kayak trip and picked up about 20 tires, I'd say, over the course of 5 miles, or even not being able to pick anything up probably the last mile and a half because we just had too much stuff in our boats by that point. But yeah, definitely a variety of tires, including one that we believe was from the Indy 500, like one of the Indy 500 cars. So zero clue how that got there. But I don't know too much about remedies yet. I'm just, here to learn more, especially moving forward. I think we'll be getting some funding to do a lot more of these. So any notes that you all have would be much appreciated.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Kay. And I'm very familiar with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful and Friends of the White River. Fantastic to have you on and look forward to working with you.
Oh, and I think we are moving forward with the dam removal project, but I would just love to have more context about what American Rivers has done with that, so we
Awesome.
can kind of get our timeline together.
Yeah, just send me an email if you're interested in the dam removal aspect, and I'll connect you with our team.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Stacey?
Well, I'd love to hear if other people, I can wait if other people want to add stuff, but I would like to share a success story. It's a long haul success story, but Connecticut is the first state in the nation to enact a tire EPR law. So that's extended producer responsibility. And we're hoping that I can put a little an article in the
That'd be
chat here
fantastic,
if people want
Stacey.
to learn more.
I
And
already have
that,
so many questions.
yeah, I know. Well, part of we've been tracking our trash, we've been 27, this was our 27th year of running a cleanup in our whole watershed, which is Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, and Connecticut. And we've been trying to get people to give us the tally of their trash. So we probably get, if we're lucky, 50% give us that data. And even so, we've amassed like a 20-year-ish, it's what we call the mega tally of all of our data. And so we've been using that for advocacy. And we don't have a very big team in that department, but we do have a river steward in each of our 4 states. So in Connecticut, our river steward has been working with some other people in other agencies and has really been pushing this and with our stats to back it up, like this is what we're seeing over time. And so it's a great success, but it's like a really long haul kind of thing. But maybe it, kind of will get a snowball effect, as once one state starts to do it, then it will roll out in others. And it's still not, it's not clear. I'm not clear yet what all the details will be, like how it will really roll out and what it will look like. But it should be similar to like you like a mattresses, I think, is all over the country, that there's EPR for a mattress. So you go and buy a new one and they take your old one. Or at least there's a very limited amount that people have to pay to get rid of those items. And there's other items that have EPR status, but anyway, just wanted to share that. And actually, if you want more information about it, I can also connect you with our river steward who was really active in it.
Yeah, I think that would be great if your river steward could come join us for a cleanup organizer discussion in the future, and they could be a guest speaker and really go into detail on how they made that happen. Obviously, it takes, with a lot of most environmental issues, it takes decades to like really years to really get success. Like just on dams, I know like we've been working on trying to remove like the same dam for 20 years. Like
Right.
So yeah, so that's just an example, but we would love to have them, and I think that would be very interesting for other cleanup organizers to learn about how, especially on the advocacy side, a lot of us don't have a very large advocacy department and or even have a person that can do advocacy. A lot of it is just the president of the organization or volunteer group that has been really running the show. And so I think any kind of information to how to make that happen and navigate it and what kind of those steps are, I think that would be really great information. So if they're interested, let's definitely make that happen.
Yeah, and I may connect you with some other people that
Perfect. Yeah.
Outside of our organization that could be helpful.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I love these organized discussions. I get so excited and pumped up. Anyone else would like to share their experience with tires?
Yeah, how are people getting rid of them? What are people doing with them?
I know with us, because we do cleanups all across the country and working with other organizers and some of you, but it really goes by county, and
Yeah.
a lot of it's relationships. Like if you can become friends with either someone in the government or someone in public works or at the local dump, that is in your best interest, honestly, and they'll pick it up for you and they'll dispose of it for you. I hate that some of us have to pay for tire removal, or even if we are taking it to the dump, we have to still pay. Obviously, like, I think that should be really on the consumer, and we're the ones helping, but it's just varies all across the board. And sometimes, yeah, we've had to have volunteers really, or even staff have to take it. And if you don't have a pickup truck, you're putting it in your back of your car, and you're also using your car for like other things, not just cleanups. And so it just kind of all together. And these are gross tires. You don't want to put it in your back of your car. And it would be nice to have some sort of service. But Jackie, you came off camera, and would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, so we do smaller cleanups by community, and the smaller the community, the more likely they are to deal with it. Well, anytime we do a cleanup for a community, they're responsible for whatever trash we pull out and removing it, but it works better the smaller the community. And I was really excited this year because one of our communities, not anything to do with the cleanup, they actually have a tire day when their residents can bring in tires. So let's like give them an avenue before they throw it in the stream and you have to dig it out. So it's a real small community. So I suppose if it was a bigger community, they had like a couple big trailer, but like not like a tractor trailer, like a big trailer, like a landscaping trailer. They had like a couple of those big landscaping trailers that their residents filled up, and then they took care of whatever cost it was. But I just thought that was really cool that they were thinking ahead instead of waiting until they had to dig it out of the creek.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Where are
that's
you based?
great.
Where are you based?
Ohio, in Cuyahoga County. So like I said, trying to get something like that to happen in Cleveland is not going to happen because there's too many
Right.
people, but you get some of the smaller communities and really, it's helpful.
Yeah, it's just like an e-waste day, or like
Yeah.
bring in your prescription pills so you
Yeah.
don't flush them down the toilet. Like, I think that I actually haven't heard of that before, so I think that's fantastic. And do they have any like PR or stuff like that? I would love to share that out so I can spread the message, and maybe I can link it in one of our organizer emails.
I'll ask them.
Okay.
I think it's just a matter of they have a very small they're really small. They have a newsletter. I think they hand deliver it, honestly, probably to their, I think they have like 600 households.
Mhm.
And that I know that it was in the newsletter. So that,
Yeah.
and plus once a community does something like that, it's just like the drug buybacks. Now
Mhm.
everybody knows about that. Our sewer district does those. So
Yeah.
getting these regional or community people to do it at that level, I just think it's so much better than having to get it out of the water afterwards. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think this is even something you could approach your uh I mean, when I lived in DC, we had wards and we had a representative for each ward, and like that's I would approach one of those. If I was living in DC still, I would approach one of them and see, hey, how do we make this happen? And they would kind of know how to navigate that, and they would bring it up to the council and discuss. But I know that many of the cleanup organizer network is in government. Not to call anyone out, Andrea is also, Jackie, you are technically a part of the government.
Mhm.
And so I'm sure that like you guys probably have a better sense on how to go about that. Do you have any recommendations for those of us that are not working for the government on who you would talk to if you were to explore something like that?
Honestly, I find that my best contacts, you would think they would be the politicians, but it's usually like whoever, there's always one person that's either like the clerk of courts or the council clerk or some sort of clerk
Mhm.
that makes the whole village run or the whole community run. And you find out who that person is and they will know who to ask. And then
Okay.
the other person that people that I've had a lot of luck with are service directors,
Mhm.
because their guys are the ones that have to do all kinds of cleanup
Mhm.
in the community. And so if they can get things out of the waste stream, they tend to be more interested in doing that, because then it's less garbage that their guys are picking up along the side of the road, because not everything ends up in the stream.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. Service directors and the whoever that clerk person is. Sometimes they call them the office manager, sometimes it's clerk of council, sometimes it's clerk of courts, depends on the community. But if it's any obviously your mega urban communities like Cleveland are huge, it's a lot more difficult, but in any watershed, there's a whole bunch of little communities
Mhm.
too.
Right. I
What
just,
about like even a park ranger? Do you think any of those would, because they do a lot of like cleanup related stuff. Do you think that they would have?
In this is just us, right, locally. The national park does not do many river cleanups.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're not so much into I don't know why, but metro parks, they just take care of the parks and take
Yeah.
care of everything. So we really don't, there's only like one cleanup that we partner with them on, and that is they're a lot of the property in that watershed is in the park, and they do take care of all
Mhm.
anything we pull out. We have like 100 people at that Rocky River cleanup, and then something similar in Big Creek. Those two cleanups, the park takes care of anything that is picked up in the park. Like we
Yeah, so they
just,
wouldn't
there's
necessarily have
animals
like a
for us-
community thing. It would have to
Yeah.
be like, yeah.
yeah, I just would like to say that, since I do work for the state of Delaware, I work for Delaware's Department of Natural Resources. And I got to say that, since we're talking about, potentially having a day where folks can bring their tires and, not basically dump it off the side of the truck into the river. A few years back, may have even been 10 years ago, I work for the mosquito control section. And so one of what our agency did was we had a tire collection day where individuals could bring their tires, not businesses at all, but definitely, the individual homeowner. And because tires also can be collecting water and therefore producing mosquitoes. So it was a perfect, collaboration of mosquito control, collecting the tires so that you don't have them sitting out and breeding lots of mosquitoes and problems there. But the other side of that is that, I'm thinking, since you're mentioning this, maybe we should get into doing this again, since where I work is actually at a conservation district, which I know a lot of states have conservation districts. And I work for, or I should say, I work at one conservation district for the northernmost county of Delaware, Newcastle. And then there's also conservation districts in Kent County and in Sussex County. And I'm thinking, maybe with the conservation districts, they might be willing to have a day where folks can, basically bring in their tires and leftovers and things like that, so that they don't end up being dumped in the rivers and then we're trying to clean them up through either the Christina River cleanup or the, the Southern Delaware cleanups, things like that. But I gotta say that for us anyway, the senators and representatives have funding through the Delaware Solid Waste Authority, who handles all the trash and collects everything that we have. And they basically, the representatives receive funding, so they can donate their funding to any sort of cleanup. And even if it's a tire collection day, so at least tires are not ending up in the river. So it could be a good, I'm just kind of pondering on this right now, but it could be a good combination of, conservation district location. And if we do them in all 3 counties, collect tires there, and then they're not ending up, sitting in people's backyards and breeding mosquitoes and causing problems. And they're also not ending up in the river. So I'm just, telling you how we pay for it. And, it might work for others as well. If you have, funding that, senators and representatives receive through, whoever handles your solid waste.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We could even look at TDOT, not TDOT, but any Department of Transportation. I know, again, living in Tennessee, they had a very invested interest in the trash that was along the side of the road, including tires. And so that could be a partner you could connect with. And in addition to anyone that's like on the mosquito control and conservation district, you guys could all kind of band together, pull some funding, and have an organized day. And then you have those 4 outlets that are promoting it, marketing it to their people, because everyone has some sort of audience, and then you get the message out there too. What a great idea. And let me know if you guys do try to do something like this, because the more people that do it or try it out, and even if like there are missteps, I think that everyone would like to hear from you in the network, and so we can all kind of learn together. And the more people that do it, the more people are more likely to try it, and we can really make a big change across the board.
Sure. Yeah. Positives and negatives. It's all information that, other folks can learn from or try, I appreciate that, that our solid waste, allows us to pay for the dumping of unfortunately the tires, because we don't have a way to recycle them locally. And, they handle paying for all of our disposal as well for the cleanup. So it works out well.
Yeah.
That's one question I was going to ask. Has anybody had any experiences with any kind of recycling program, or any, like, be it yours or something that you partner with somebody else for?
Delaware used to have a tire recycler, but I don't believe, I think they may have gone out of business or moved out of state.
I know that Goodyear is working on, at least with their tires in general, they're working on developing tires that are more environmentally friendly, so that as they degrade, they're not as bad as the regular rubber ones. And I believe that they are also doing some recycled, using their rubber or tires and recycling them, but I don't think they have like a public facing like, hey, we're accepting any used tires, and if you drop them off, we'll use them and repurpose them into new tires. That would actually be a really cool concept. But
Bridgestone used to do a program with black tires. I think that stopped last year, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's sunsetted. We were just talking about that earlier, and it's a huge loss. I know many of us were using and really relying on them, and it was, yeah, and they were super quiet about being sunsetted. I think it took us like a year and a half to like really find out if they were sunsetting, and then they finally like someone got the message and then told the rest of us. And so yeah, it's a bummer, a huge loss.
But
You guys have,
I have
sorry.
Firestone offices that have taken hundreds of tires from us too, which is nice. So I mean, and that was just someone who had a vested interest, like a manager who was like, yeah, we'll take them.
Yeah.
No fee.
Yeah, I think it seems very regional. And we're all over the country, so it's even hard to share resources with each other here. But
Yeah.
I've also found that it's one thing to do, like 50 or like 550 or something kind of smallish, but like this year, a guy was reporting to us of like 2,000 tires in his town that just accumulated often agriculturally or just stockpiles of tires, and he'd been trying to work with landowners and people in the town, and it's so expensive to actually move them. And so I was wondering, Madeline, if you had any, or American Rivers has resources on funding specific to cleanups and large items like this, and or can you put any pressure on these Bridgestones of America to or do you even know why they stopped doing it? And is there any leverage we can all bring to bear? Or
Bridgestone, I have issues with Bridgestone. President, I know this is recorded, but I honestly, like, I've looked at their 990. I feel like they're all talk, and they have like a very nice, at least a few years ago, they had a very nice environmental page and like saying they do all this great stuff, but it was all smoke and mirrors. And the tire program was the only thing that they were really doing and doing well, but they were saying that they were supporting all these other environmental efforts, which I disagreed with based on their actually information they're releasing to the public. So I don't think that they have they're not invested in the environment enough that they will make a change. I think we can look at other tire companies, at least Goodyear, and we don't work with them, but I've done a pretty solid research profile and updated them recently, and they look like they are advancing in their environmental goals. But to change kind of the entire industry more so than offering to, I guess, work on all the bad stuff that's already happened. And so with all the tires that are still kind of, I would love to really address the ones that are on the road that are ending up in the water and kind of preventing that issue. I've personally been on the highway driving, and I got hit by a piece of tire, and it hit me on the driver's side, and luckily nothing happened to me, but it did do significant damage to my car. And so just trying to prevent, it's like also not just like a environmental issue, but it's also a safety issue. So if you looking at it from like funding, I guess, sense, if you want to go at it from a safety issue, like, hey, this is a danger to people driving, a hazard, that can also kind of looking at companies or government agencies that are invested in that side of things, that might pique their interest more than just saying, hey, this is damaging our rivers and water and that kind of stuff. For funding as a whole, the solid waste departments that you have, I know that they have bigger money, and so it doesn't seem like it would be up their alley, but I don't think that we shouldn't not look into them. We do have a fundraising resource guide that you can look at that does have some stuff. The only thing is that a gap that I have been experiencing and haven't been able to include more of is on the tire and big waste. Budget Dumpster does do a program, though. They're not everywhere, but they do offer free dumpsters. But they do work with a network of dumpster providers. So that's also, everyone has experience with dumpster companies, and some of them sometimes they don't show up. So but from what I've heard, there's pretty good things with them. So if you do have kind of large objects that need just disposal, you can go with them to get a dumpster. But obviously I don't have those answers though with funding on how to get it out of the water, especially with those big like containers and bigger, massive tire trucks, that's an issue that we haven't been able to really solve. Or at least look at who's going to fund that, unfortunately.
One other dumpster thing, just that we use 1-800-GOT-JUNK for one of our locations for our cleanup, and they pay for disposal, you know, and I don't know if it's similar to, you know, something like a budget dumpster, but that individual owner's been, you know, good to us and worked with us.
One thing, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to, somebody had asked about recycling. And this has been a while because it was back when I was just volunteering to help with the Nimicillin cleanup. So probably about 2012, 2015, somewhere in that 2015 area. But when we did collect tires and work with a tire company, I don't remember if it was Bridgestone, it probably was, but for the purpose of they were going to recycle the tires. And I think by recycle, they were going to shred them. And that was when you know how they use them on the playgrounds and stuff. We had to get pressure washers. And that was actually a station of the volunteers of the cleanup, was to pressure wash the tires because they had to all be washed. They couldn't have any mud or dirt on them before you could recycle them. So
It's a pain.
that, I mean, we did it, and because we had a lot of volunteers for that, but it takes a lot. That was a big deal. Just so you know, as far as the recycling, it's like everything else you recycle. It's not as simple as, well, you've got it, you throw it in a pile. It has to be cleaned. So that's
a good point.
Not to say don't do it, but that it is something you got to set aside volunteers for. But I agree with the person, and I don't know that American Rivers is the right or the wrong, but Bridgestone, Firestone, Goodyear are all national, international companies, and we need advocacy at that level. Like, it shouldn't really be where every watershed group needs to go, or every state even needs to go to them. It should be, at some point, it should be a given that it's their responsibility to take care of these tires that aren't being properly disposed of, because it's their problem. It's like the average person doesn't have a good place, and then what ends up happening is they leave them, they sell their house, and somebody tosses them, you know, because they've just been sitting there forever. So it would be nice, I agree, if we could find some national organization that can put pressure or encouragement, carrot stick, to get them to feel like that would be a worthwhile. I mean, it's the most environmentally important thing that they can do, really.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure this is very different across the board depending on what this looks like, but one of our partners that we try to work with from the Catawba Riverkeeper, we're in, and I'm sorry I didn't say this before, we're in the North and South Carolina areas, and so we Duke Energy runs pretty much everything in this particular area, and so we have actually kind of created a partnership with them in which, you know, it's Duke Energy, they are a natural resource conglomerate, they need all the good press that they can get, and so they are one of our partners that we utilize, granted mostly for big events. So we have something called River Sweep, which is like our largest one-day river cleanup event, where we go to 50 or 60 sites across our basin and we do it all at once. And so we usually pull a lot from that, and it gets very heavily promoted. And so that's one where, like, they're a huge partner, and they will oftentimes donate like a dozen or 2 dozen dumpsters to different areas, and they'll coordinate that like with the counties, and they'll pay for it, and all that kind of stuff. We don't have as much success with that, I think probably because they're so big and we don't promote them as much, but with our like more individual cleanups, like monthly kind of cleanups. But especially for maybe some organizations or groups where you're not doing them several times a month, you're doing them here and there, or any that does get highly promoted, may not be a bad idea to try to go to those natural resource companies and see if they want to get involved and have some good PR on their side for helping out. So it's a possibility if nobody's looked into that yet.
That's a good idea.
We have 11 minutes left. Is there anything else people want to share or ask about? It could be tire related, it could not be.
I have a super random question. This is going to sound weird. Has anybody found a way to do tire removal that is not just 100% brute manual labor, man-powered, like people pulling them out, creating a chain of humans to take them from one place to another, like that kind of stuff? Has anybody tried out any other kinds of systems?
Sometimes heavy machinery is your best friend.
How often
Like,
have you used heavy machinery, Andrea, or seen it used?
It's a lot of times for more specialized cleanups where you've noticed, like, for example, we have one site that for some reason everybody seems to like to dump their old refrigerator and their old washer and dryer and Lord knows what else and things like that. It's kind of a marshy area, and so having volunteers get in there and try to work with it isn't going to work. So usually we try to contact the county and work with them with the larger machinery to get it out.
And they'll pay. Do they already have the machinery? Do they have to rent it? How does that work?
No, the county has the machinery.
Okay.
Thankfully, they've got the machinery, they've got the staff to operate it. The only thing that the cleanup ends up paying is for disposal. But like I mentioned earlier, we can find those funds from, some senator or representative.
Interesting. That's a good angle. And I guess it does depend on, like, it's just like with a dumpster, you can only kind of bring that machinery in certain spots. Like you mentioned marshy area. Was it what kind of machine was it?
The one was I know I'm gonna name it wrong. It wasn't a front end loader. It was the one that's got the large arm on it. Yes, exactly. Yes, that one. I can't think of the name of it. But yes, that too, essentially, the vehicle and the truck and all for the tires was stationed on the roadway. So it was basically reaching out into the marsh and getting these things that were, like I said, large pieces of appliances and things.
Okay. And it was able to do that because it had a large arm. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yes. Why is it I can't think of the name of that thing?
I can't think of it either.
Is that a backhoe? Is that what a backhoe is?
That sounds right.
Pulls it.
No, I don't think
that doesn't
so.
sound right.
I think it's an excavator.
Okay.
Could be an excavator.
I'm not in the country.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
I've seen them. It wasn't my cleanup, but I went to a cleanup in North Carolina on the Tuckasegee, and they actually use the heavy equipment from the county to pull wood out. Like, by wood, I don't mean little piece, I mean like whole trees, because it's right at the mouth where it goes, right before it goes into a lake, and all this wood just gets piled up, and then you can't even get the trash because there's so much wood.
Yeah.
And so they just, put it up along the side. I don't know what they did with it after, but that was interesting. But they did use the county for that. So maybe that is another idea, is when you need something bigger like that, to get the county involved.
Yeah, that's another with fundraising that reminds me, like lumber companies or anything that's like they could be like a small, but they are technically in the natural resources, like, and they have money. So like, I think that, and they have machinery, they love data. They might have some sort of interest in whether it's the sciences or data aspect or the cleanup aspect. So that's something to look into if you are in an area that has a big wood, paper industry, logging industry. Or I know that in some spots there's just one or two small companies, but I think they're still worth looking into.
By the way, it is an excavator.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thanks,
Now
Nick.
we know.
I looked it up online.
In my defense, I have a toddler who's a truck expert, and he'll
Okay.
correct me on any
Perfect.
truck or heavy machinery misidentification.
So one of the things I just wanted to bring up really quickly, I don't know if people know about it or not, but on the Cuyahoga River, there's been a lot of dam removals. There's only 2 dams left now. One of which will never be removed because it is for the reservoir for the city of Akron drinking water. But the 60-foot gorge dam is going to be removed with Great Lakes restoration funds. And it's over $100 million project. And we're really excited because it's been, you think nothing's happening, everybody was like, it's never going to happen. It doesn't matter. It's never going to happen for like decades now. And then now it's happening. Like it's just starting to get sediment. It's going to take years because of the sediment removal piece of it, but it's exciting. So it does happen, even though it may take decades.
Be persistent. And Dusty said we pestered. Yeah, persistence, pestering. If they know your name, you're good. Just keep bothering them until you get what you want, I think. And don't give up. Yeah. Well, great. So this is a great conversation. I definitely will definitely be continuing to talk about tires, and we'll have Stacy's connections, one of them, come on to be a guest speaker probably sometime early next year, hopefully, if that works out. And yeah, if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. If you're looking to get in touch with someone that was on this call, or you have an issue that you're like, do you know who I should talk to that would maybe have done this before or have some experience, let me know, and I'll see who in the network might make sense to connect you with. Hi, Kate. I don't know, there's not like a listserv for this group. I have a database of people, but obviously it's like private information. And so we do have, it's not like something that like, if you reply to the email, it sends it to everyone on the listserv. But if you go to our Facebook page or Facebook group, that is where people in the group can post and ask questions. And so that's also another resource that people can use. And but I know not everyone's on Facebook. So and if you aren't on Facebook, I can ask that question for you. Great. Well, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a happy holiday, and we'll have another discussion next month, and I'll send out the invitation to that for you guys. Have a great day.
Right.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.